And that kind of goes into a segment I've got on here, which is the new teachers union. And if people aren't up to it, and we've talked about it a little bit before, but teachers are a special contract. They have what is in the press, which is their normal and general increase, and that's anywhere from right now 1 to 1.5%. But in addition to what they have what we call steps and lanes. And what that is a step is every year that you make it through another year. So for every year of service, you move up the ladder. That's a rung on the ladder that brings you more salary and more wages with no evaluation being done on that. Are you a good teacher or not? Are you a good EA or not? It applies to those also. And even with your administration, your principals and those types of things. They're slowly bringing in some evaluations. The principals are now going to be evaluated. And now I think this current year or next year, part of the compensation for teachers under QComp, which is qualitative compensation, meaning that there will be some evaluations being done for part of that. But our current system, there is none of that. You can be the worst teacher, and as long as you have tenure over 3 years, you don't get fired because it's first in, first out. So all of our new, energetic, newly trained are the first ones to leave, which is stupid. That's a stupid system. That's got to go. There's no reason for that to be in our system. But if you move up, in addition to that 1%, by the steps up the rung of the ladder, you also get anywhere from usually another 1.5 to 2.5%. More education. That's where we get into the lanes. So if you want to look at it on a highway, it's like a 12-lane highway. Each year that you get more education, and it's in about quarter segments. So once you go from a bachelor's degree, which you have to go, if you get 1/4 of the way to a master's degree, that puts you in a different lane. So every quarter that you get, and then when you get to a master's, that's another. Every lane you go over is anywhere from 2 to 4%. So if you get more education, again, you may not be any better teacher. All you are is more educated. You get a 2 to 4%. Then you get the 1 or 1.5% on top of that. So, and again, you have to remember, folks, when they look at the salaries that they give you, those are at 75%. They spend 75% of the year educating and get paid for. They've got another 25% of their time that they can get in a second job. So if you want to take their salary, divide it by 75%, that'll get on a full-time basis. So that's another thing that you want to look at is they say their teachers are so low paid. Not for a part-time or a semi-part-time job. In essence, you want to look at it as they're working 30 hours a week on a full-time basis. Because with the time off that they get, they have all summer off, and then they've got all the breaks. It ends up being that 75% of a full-time job is what they're doing,
okay,
which is about 30-hour work week.
Who do you think should be held primarily accountable for a child's education?
Well, I'm really old school, so I'm going to what's going to show here is that the first responsibility for educating a child is a parent.
I agree.
It may not be fashionable, it may not be the way that a lot of people, and I understand single parents. And I'm going to hold you back, Vicki, because I know you were a single parent. And then you can come in afterwards. And again, calm you down a little bit. That's more difficult. I understand that. There are resources out there, but that doesn't mean that you give up the primary responsibility and turn your child over to some third party as a daycare provider or anything else. You need to be as involved as you can be. So you don't pull back 100%. And same with two parents that are working. I was in one of those. You have to determine if your child is that important to you. And I'm going to be really strong about that. If that isn't the fact, then why did you have children? They are a responsibility. You don't turn them over to other people. And if you do, you better not complain about how they turn out, because it's your responsibility for what you did. Now, that might be harsh, but it's your responsibility. That's part of what's not in our society any longer. Personal responsibility is out there. You got to do that. Yes, we have to have an education system because not everybody is prepared to teach the way that they need to be done. We have a lot of homeschoolers that are out there that didn't think that they were qualified. They took their kids out because they were so appalled by the public schools. I I would prefer to change the public schools to make them world-class again. I graduated from Robbinsdale in '76. My mother and father went there, and my youngest son went to Cooper. So we have a third generation in the public system here and in Robbinsdale. So it's not, and that's why I'm running for school district, is I'm not ready to abandon it. I need it has to change, or something drastic has to happen to it for it to do that. I think it can change, but it has to come from the groundswell. It has to come from the parents and the community.
I absolutely agree. In fact, I don't think it's harsh at all. I think it's way past time somebody said what you just said. And I recall they brought in a superintendent in Minneapolis that tried to take that approach, and they couldn't run her out of town fast enough. But you mentioned I was a single parent, and I got my most pleasure out of walking my child to school every day. We actually fed them at home back in those days, and spending time with him with his work after work. Or after I got off work and he got out of school, spending time with them and making sure they understand their studies. I don't care if they're in kindergarten or 12th grade. Mm-hmm. You need to spend time with your kids and make sure they're understanding what it is they're learning and why it is they're learning, and that they feel good about learning and that they're strong, smart kids. Yep. So I absolutely agree, and I thank you for saying that out loud. And I hope you don't stop saying that out loud. I hope you're able to convince, your colleagues on the school board when the time comes. And speaking of that, you said there are 2 positions open?
There are 4 positions open. So this year, we've got a 7-member school board, and 4 of those positions are open.
Wow. 2
of the current school board members are running for re-election, and 2 of the current school board members that would be up for re-election have decided not to run. So there'll be at least 2 new school board members in the up and coming years. So with the time, what I would like to talk about, and we touched about it a little bit, is on the referendum a little bit. Because the school board and the administration are wrapping up immensely on the referendum, and they're putting out some things, and these are on the website. And I'll show, hopefully the camera can come in, we'll show the front of them. These are also on the website, but I would tell everybody, this is on both questions, and then they have one that is on question 2 only. And that one is a fold out, again on the website. You can also pick them up. Inform yourself on what they're talking about. Again on here, they are obviously, without coming out too terribly, it does say vote and the date and to expand, renew, close to endorsing. I won't say that they're endorsing it, they're providing information. But in there, they talk about what the referendum is, do some good things about spreading out what it is. What they don't talk about that I do want to bring up is over the last several years, and again, the Minnesota Department of Education is where I'm getting this information. They have to provide the school district every year, every school district in Minnesota, their finances, they're audited, and then they put them up on their website. Looking at it from going from the 11-12 to the 12-13 school year, and I'll limit myself to the instructional, which is really the classroom. Salaries increased from the 11-12, 12-13 year by 4.5%. So we talked about a little bit about those steps and lanes. That's the effect of that. Again, the paper tells you, and they tell you that they only increased it by 1 to 1.5%, and several years back they said 0. That doesn't take into account the steps and lanes because they're telling you what was new in the contract, not what was carried over from the previous contracts. Very important that they don't say that because otherwise people would say 4.5% increases in this day and age, much more than anybody that I know of in industry. Government is only the ones that are getting this stuff.
That's true.
On top of that, the benefits side of things went up 10%. That same time frame. Because what they're doing is they're giving them increases every year in the amount of health care that they're paying for them and other benefits. So then going back one more school year, so 10-11 to 11-12, salaries went up 5%, benefits went up 5.3%. Then we go back when they were giving 0 increases and doing some cutbacks. So 09, 10 to 10, 11, we had some closures. So there was only a 1% increase in salaries and a 1.6% increase in benefits. And then back the next one, 08, 09. 08 was when the referendum was adopted, and 09, 10. Salaries went up 3.4%. Benefits actually went down a little bit. Part of that, I think, was some more decreases in people. So that's what they're not telling you. That's eaten into a lot of this $20 million referendum. Over that period of time, cumulatively, if you add those numbers together over that 4-year period, that's in excess of 10% increases and probably closer to 12% increases that they were giving. Just, again, which is the biggest piece, the teachers and the EAs that are inside the regular education classrooms and everything. So biggest thing is ask the question of all the school board candidates and your current school board. You need to get out there. There are very few people that come to school board meetings. If they're not there, they think everything is hunky-dory. Email them, telephone them, look at if you've got access to the online, look at some of the school board itineraries. You can flip through that to get to where you want to go. But we need to be involved, because if they don't hear from you, they think they're doing a great job, which if you don't get feedback, you have to come up with that conclusion.
Well, and I would just like to add that they try to make it easy for the taxpayer to digest by saying it's only $7 a month on your property taxes. And I'd like to be frank with you, I don't believe that. I don't believe it for a second. And I'm not saying that school teachers don't deserve raises, but they need to find other ways to save our money and quit jacking us up.
Inflation, they should be able to stay with inflation.
Yes.
Yes. Just like everybody else is living within their means, they've got to live too.
Yes, exactly. And I'd like to thank you, Ron, for taking the time to explain this to the public, because, you know, we don't take the time to really read and digest, and next thing you know, it just happens to us. Yep. And so if you have any questions, if there's anything you don't understand, if there's something you'd like to know before you vote, please give us a call. The viewer response line is up there for you to see. Write it down. Don't hesitate to call, because this is who I call on when I need help digesting these numbers that I frankly don't understand. I know math, but this is too complicated for me. So I appreciate you breaking it
And then
all
just
down.
remember, Election Day is going to be November 4th, 2014. We do have a primary coming up. I'll plug that too on August 12th. We're not on that, the school board or the referendum, but other people are out there. But also, if you can't make it to the poll, we made it very easy. With early registration and early voting and absentee, you don't need a reason to do that, so you get out of the long lines. So, but thank you, Vicki, for having the opportunity to guest here and having you guest host.
Okay, and do you know of, are there people running for the other open seats?
There was 6 people came to an open forum type of thing that the school board put together. So will they run or not, we'll not know until the 12th. But there are, I'm guessing that there'll be 7 or 8. Last time we had 4 people up. I think there was 11 or 12 people that ran.
Okay.
So
all right, well, you know, go ahead, step up to the plate and run for school
not
board
too
this
late.
year. And yeah, absolutely, it's not too late. And again, any questions, give Ron a call.
Great.
Viewer response line.
thank you very much.